All right, so I have done my project on phone addiction and intervention, and I have used a single system research design. So first off, let's have a phone fact. So according to Sahu Gandhi and Sharma in 2019, 6.3% of the overall population uses their cell phones in excess. And as someone who, as most of my friends, and especially my mom would say, has her phone glued to her hip, I would say I am probably part of that 6.3% of the population that uses their phone more than is mentally and physically healthy. Another interesting factor into why I chose this assignment is because I actually have chronic migraine syndrome. And I've spoken to several doctors and neurologists that have told me my screen time is much too high when you add up my screen time on my phone, iPad, and on my laptop for work. And then I should strongly consider bringing it down to reduce the frequency and intensity of my migraines. So I was actually pretty excited, but also kind of scared to see how much time I was spending on my phone. So let me cover the methods first that I used in this research. I have an iPhone, so I was able to use the screen time app or setting in my phone to track my data. And then I gathered data daily on the hours that I spent on my phone that day, and then also the number of phone pickups that day. I also used Excel to record all of those data points. So I used all of the daily information to calculate weekly averages after I was done collecting for that week for the 3 weeks pre-intervention and then also the 3 weeks post-intervention. And the three data points that I monitored were hours per day, which I converted into hours weekly, pickups per day, which I converted into average pickups weekly, and then also the top 3 applications used weekly, which were number 1, the iPhone Messages app, number 2, YouTube, hello, come on, and number 3, which was GroupMe, which is the app that I use to communicate with all of the rest of my cohort members on our cohort group message, and then for all of my other group projects in all of my classes as well. And so I tracked those and then I converted them into the appropriate whatever for these graphs here and this little graphic right here. As for my intervention, the intervention I chose because I had heard from supervisors and coworkers at different places that I have been working and had my internships at, that replacement behaviors can be a really good way to break a bad habit. So an example of that, something that I've heard is working with high-risk clients who are self-harming. I've heard that some therapists like to give them replacement behaviors, such as like snapping a rubber band on their wrist so they get that feeling, or holding ice in the palm of their hand. So I guess the point of a replacement behavior isn't just to replace it with something that's completely different, but to replace the unhelpful habit with something that gives you the same satisfaction. According to research by McKenna, Flower, Falcamata, and Adamson in 2017, replacement behavior interventions are very effective in controlling, quote, what they call challenging and off-task behaviors. And so that is why I picked using a replacement behavior as an intervention, because I thought that that might actually work to reduce my screen time. And the replacement behavior that I picked was journaling at night when I'm, sitting at bed when I'm done with all my stuff for the day. I did that because I noticed that a lot of my screen time was at night, actually, not during the day, like watching YouTube videos or watching Netflix or Hulu on my phone, something to put me in a good mood and relax me. And journaling and expressing myself in like an artistic and creative way is also something that puts me in a good mood and gives me that same satisfaction. So that's why I picked that particular intervention. And then let's talk about the results of my data now, pre and post intervention. So first I'll cover screen time, which is over here. Week 1, my screen time was 46 hours. Week 2, screen time was 48.5 hours. And then week 3 was 47.5 hours. This is the point where my intervention was implemented after week 3 was finished. And then week 4, my screen time was 38 hours. Week 5, was 37.5 hours, and week 6, my screen time was 37.5 hours. So if I were to average my pre-intervention weeks, weeks 1 through week 3, that would be 47.33 hours average before the intervention. And if I were to average my post-intervention weeks, that would be 37.67 hours average after the intervention. And then as for phone pickups, let's go over here. Week 1, my average phone pickups was 120. Week 2 was 125. Week 3 was 130. And then that is same as the other one. That's where I implemented my intervention after week 3 was finished. And so week 4, my average phone pickups was 110. Week 5 was 104. And then week 6 was 90. So my average phone pickups for weeks that were pre-intervention was 125. And then my average phone pickups for weeks post-intervention was 101.33. So as is very clear, there was a drastic decline, it seems, both in screen time and phone pickups in the post-intervention weeks. And as I was thinking about this, I was thinking to myself, gosh, there's literally no way that journaling for 30 minutes to an hour every night could have changed those numbers so drastically. So I was thinking, what are some of the limitations of the study that I conducted? There are two things that I think could have affected my screen time in general, and this would be pre and post intervention. Number one, I use YouTube to watch all of my class lectures on my phone. Like for your class, Jimmy, and for another class, all of the video lectures are on YouTube. And so I use my phone to watch those. So I think that could have skewed my screen time, as well as the Microsoft Teams app. That's where I have my work phone number because I don't have a work cellular device from my internship. So that's how I speak with clients, parents, and coworkers, checking in with them and doing all that stuff, assessments. Those are all performed over the phone using that Microsoft Teams number. And so I think that that could have definitely affected my screen time as well. And then that could have added to the high numbers pre and post test, I think. And then as for the drastic decline, I think that this could be attributed to the fact that school and internship schedules were really starting to get more full at this point in time, because you can see as the weeks keep going on my average hours weekly and my average phone pickups, at this point right here, after week 3, as I started to get busier and had less time in general, that could have been why these numbers were going down, down. So I think that could have had to do with something. And then also the phone pickups I thought were incredibly low in comparison to the average hours weekly. And as I thought about it, I realized that I like to actually play YouTube videos, like relaxing music or something like that while I sleep. And so my screen is on and YouTube is playing, but I'm not picking up my phone at all. And that will play sometimes like all night or half the night, something like that. And so I think that might be why my pickups were so low, but my hours were so high. And I also have an iPad in which I sometimes check my notifications during the day and not on my phone. So that could also be why my phone pickups were so low. So I had a lot of limitations there. But as for conclusions, I'm probably almost definitely addicted to my phone, but the replacement behavior of journaling seemed to help, although the drastic drop in screen time, hours, and phone pickups cannot really be attributed fully to the journaling every night. An unintentional result of journaling every night, rather than sitting there in bed looking at my phone, is that I feel like it was actually very helpful for my mental health. I was able to vent and release the stress of my day, and it did help me feel more relaxed, as well as helping me sleep a little better at night, I think. And I actually wish I had tracked like a scale rating how well I slept at night, because that would have been interesting too. So all in all, I had a lot of fun with this project, and I think I might actually track some of my habits in the future because I think that it could be really helpful for my mental health. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching and listening.